All right, all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. I am so excited to have Shameka Allen-Lane from Catalyst Coaching, Event Coaching with us today. Hey, Shameka.
Hi.
Awesome. So if you are here tuning in, give us a good morning. How you doing? So that we know that you are here. We are just so excited for today's conversation. Last week, if you tuned in, last week actually concluded our theme on community building. And our last session was with Jalen Christie, who talked about PR and community building. So definitely check that out by going into the guide section of the group. And today we're going to be kicking off the theme of fund development and year-end planning for this month's conversation. So I'm excited to be able to kick that off with Shameka. So if you're tuning in, go ahead and invite a friend to the group. Tag them if you know they're in a group and they need to be tuning in to today's session. If you're catching us on replay, give us a hashtag replay so that we know that you're joining us, and let us know that you are here. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So I just, before we get started, I just want to say a special thank you to this month's sponsor, Complex 7. Complex 7 is an online BMW parts and apparel store that provides products that combine quality performance with value pricing. And so check out our sponsor at www.complex7.com. And we thank them for sponsoring this month's sessions of Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. All right, Shameka, let's jump right into it. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How about you?
Good. I can't believe it's been so long. It took us this long to get you on, but we are so excited to have you.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So tell us about yourself and along with your company.
Sure. So my name is Shameka Allen-Lane, and I founded Catalyst Event Coaching. And Catalyst Event Coaching was born out of years of me working with a whole bunch of different corporate and nonprofit-based events. And I saw some different common denominators. And so essentially I set out to do something a little bit different. And I support people around executing their own events, people and organizations. And so training, coaching, all of those good things around putting your events together. But most certainly, I still do a little bit of things around event management because this is a field that trends change all the time. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's hard to train people on something that's outdated that they used 5 years ago or 2 years ago. In this case, events were different a year ago. They were different the year before that. So learning, training somebody on pre-COVID events is not the same as what events are today if you're having in-person events. But of course, with that said, of course, virtual events is very popular now too. So I support in that space. I'm a digital event strategist, as well as I have a certified meeting professional designation. And fun fact, I am also a co-founder of a nonprofit organization called One Albany.
Ooh, awesome. So you definitely understand the nonprofit community, especially one thing I want you to talk a little bit about that was a fun fact for me as well was how you tie events and science together.
Yes. And so speaking of that fun fact, I was introduced to nonprofit through events through a nonprofit. So that is actually how I got my start. That is me understanding what events are like, me understanding what it's operating off of a budget that's non-existent, a net zero base budget, all of these wonderful things that nonprofits typically experience. I had an opportunity to do that because I was in a student-based organization that was student operated. So as a student, we planned the events, we did all the things. But at that point, my background was in science. And so by nature, I'm very logical and analytical in approach. And so that is what I bring to the event space. So a lot of times when people think about events, they're really thinking about the design, a lot of times the decor, with events, and I come with a whole nother set of things that I'm looking
Mhm.
at. Logistics is definitely my jam. That I tell people a lot of times that's the stuff that most event people prefer not to do. If they can leave it to someone else, they will. And that's the thing that I'm
Mhm.
like, you got to get that right. Let's get that together.
Mhm.
So, fortunately, with my background as well, I was able to put together a framework too that I use inside of my business. So that's
Ooh.
kind of the framework that I use for everything, whether I am coaching clients about something or I'm executing it for my clients themselves. I use that framework.
Awesome. So I know something else. So we're talking about events, and then for nonprofit organizations, instantly I know we think about those one-off events, when we're hosting maybe our back to school drive, or we're hosting our fall festival, and or we're hosting our fundraisers, we're hosting the different annual dinners and so forth. So talk to a little bit about the program aspect of what you do.
Sure. So of course you know this well because we've
Yes,
done
I
some
do.
work together.
Yes.
But it kind of goes into what we're talking about this month with fund development, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of it is really about the strategic planning that you have for your organization. If you're looking long term about what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. Everything is kind of like those little puzzles for kids where you connect the dots, you draw one, two. So a lot of these
Mhm.
events, like you just called out, they're dots. And
Mhm.
so you have to
Mhm.
draw the line to connect them. But if you're looking at it from a holistic point of view, you're able to see how, okay, I know where this event fits in the grand scheme of things. But if you're looking at that big picture, you're like, ooh, we can do this over here to connect these dots. We could do this
Mhm.
from a programmatic standpoint. Sometimes it's marketing standpoint. So there's different ways that you can connect those dots. So for me, a lot of times, like you mentioned, people come to
Mhm.
me and ask about fundraising. I
Mhm.
want to do this big fundraising event. Oftentimes, the big fundraising event that they're looking to do is sometimes one that people do a dime a dozen. And
Mhm.
so it may not get the popularity or the revenue that you're expecting to generate. The other side of that is when you're looking at some of these events, you aren't thinking about the ROI that it
Mhm.
brings. And so for me, even from a fundraising standpoint, there are certain things that I do focus on. I'm pulling up my notes. But but I like for people to share their organization story
Mhm.
is one. So that's always top of mind. Show the show the impact. You want to make it convenient and you want to bring people along on the journey. But with my fundraising guidelines, a lot of times I tell people to be very specific about what you're trying to do from a fundraising standpoint, be transparent, align it with your mission if you
Mhm.
can. So for me, that's like one of the hugest parts to it. If you can align things with your mission, because a lot of times for me, I personally prefer for you not to think of it as a fundraising event. I want you to think about what work you're doing in your organization, what your mission is, and guide towards those things. A lot of the things that you do, the programs that you have event components related to it. So we talked about the back to school bashes and things like that, but
Mhm.
there are other things that you're doing. If you have a series that you're putting on, those are still events. Those are
Mhm.
series of events. And so if you think about it from a programmatic standpoint overall of how you're doing things and handle each one as is an event, you handle it a little bit differently, especially if you use my framework, of course, but you handle it a little bit differently than just, oh, this is a Zoom or this is a one time meeting today. You're
Mhm.
thinking about the long term effects of what that program is going to do for the organization and the impact that it's making.
Love it, love it. Um, so you talked a little bit about fund development in that fundraising arena, and then also being able to connect the dots when it comes to different events that leads up to programs. And fortunately, Shamik and I have been able to work together on multiple programs and events. And one of the things that I want to talk about in the program space, because I definitely get it when it comes to program planning. I love planning programs. Programs are my heartbeat. Designing programs, especially youth-based programs, that's just that's my spot. But one of the things we all know when we're building these programs, that sometimes some stuff are dependent on you developing a structure, a process, and a system. Otherwise, you are going to have a headache every time you host that event or program. So whether it's that fundraiser that you run every year or that conference that you do every quarter, you have to have a structure. Can we talk a little bit about the importance of having like that framework, that structure? Because otherwise, I've been there where I know when I started out, and they used to, and the team that we had, they definitely knew how much it irked me when we're planning these events. We do it every quarter, like this is what we do, but then it feels like it's our first time doing it,
Yeah,
and a
yeah,
lot of
as
that is
if we
because of
didn't
not
know.
right, like it's our
Yeah,
first time like figuring out where we're going to do how, a lot of it is because of not having that process in place. We're just putting it all together but not thinking long term. We need to
right,
document this, we need to develop. So if we can talk a little bit
right.
about that structure piece.
Sure. So the process is so important, having that structure together, because let's just be real, especially from a nonprofit perspective, but it happens in our regular work life too. But from a nonprofit perspective, oftentimes we have in our head what we're going to do, and we've been running the ship, driving the car, and life happens. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't get a chance to tell people what to do, or you didn't get a chance to do it yourself, and now everybody acting like they have no idea. So it's important to have those structures put together, that process together. So in my case, I'm going to tell what my framework is just very quickly so people can kind of match what we're saying, because I'm talking about it but then say what it is. Okay. So the framework that I use is a 5-piece framework. I
Mm-hmm.
came up with the framework. There are elements within it, so don't just take it at this and that's all. But it's definitely something to kind of help you understand what we're talking about. But number one is goals and objectives. We know that that's extremely important for
Love it.
anything that you do. Number two is financial management. It's the reason why I have that order. You need to have, what's important first, and then you got to make
Mm-hmm.
sure you can execute it with the finances, right? And then thirdly, for me, logistics, that's my sweet spot. Four is execution. And five is evaluation. And so this is definitely something from a programmatic standpoint that you can put towards every single program that you have. If you're going through all of those steps, you can put a process together, right? So that's first thing.
Mm-hmm.
But going into what you were kind of mentioning, a lot of times we're just thinking about it in our heads. And then we say, oh, we want some help. We want to bring on this team. And then we're looking at people like, why don't you know what to do? They don't know what to do. And if you're bringing on volunteers, especially, having a team is great. If it's official team for the organization, but a lot of times it's volunteers. So being able to give out an exact task to someone to say, they're like, I want to help. What can I do? If you tell them, go do this, and it's very clear cut what they're supposed to do, they're more likely to do it, right? A lot of times we
Mm-hmm.
have frustration with our volunteers because they're like, I don't know what I was doing, or no one told me what to do, or I didn't have anything to do. And there's always plenty to do. And so basically, what I like to do is come up with a system, especially if you're doing what I call rinse and repeat events and
Mm-hmm.
programs.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing those, you come up with a process of everything that needs to happen from beginning to end. And basically, you're using those goals and objectives that you came up with, you're keeping them in mind the entire time. So you're not getting distracted with that
Mm-hmm.
shiny object syndrome, thinking about, oh, that's nice, that's cool. I saw that other place do that. If it doesn't go and align with what you have for your objectives and goals, and it doesn't fit your financial management, we need to just cut it. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
not spend a lot of time exploring that option. Let's cut it. But I will also say a part of that financial management side, it's not just raising funds. Um, it's everything on that side. That's reviewing your partnerships, reviewing any other resources that people bring into things. And let me be clear, if you're doing a program, because I think this happens in nonprofits as well, if you're doing a program, it's not designed to be a fundraiser. It doesn't mean that you can't make any funds during this program. So just
Mm-hmm.
be mindful, look for those opportunities that make sense for you to bring in some revenue. Just let it offset what your costs, even if it's not a break, it meant to be a break even or a profitable event. Let it offset your costs. Look at all those opportunities. Don't leave money on the table.
Mm-hmm. Love it. And one thing that I love that you spoke about, especially when you spoke about your framework, you talk about goals and objectives, financial management, logistics, execution, and evaluation. So these last few calls or lives that we've been having, everyone has shared some sort of framework or process that they live by when doing. And I love that you shared that. When Jalen came on, he talked about RPI, research plan, implement and evaluate. When Miss Debbie Pedraza came on, she talked about outcomes, starting with your outcome. Why are you doing this event, program, whichever, and then working down to how you're going to do it, which is the methods and then the resources. So you all should hear that common theme of having a framework. You need to have something that your organization adopt and say, hey, when we're doing events, when we're doing programs, when we're doing whatever this may be, this is the framework that we're using. So I definitely recommend adopting some sort of framework that can help you get to where you want to go with all your different goals. And all these frameworks that's been shared on these lives are easily adaptable to different situations. Yes, Shameka is talking about events, but it can go easily into programs, or if your team, let's say it's your marketing team working on something, a special campaign in particular, looking at the goals and objective, looking at the financial management aspect, what logistics go into making this happen, the execution evaluation. So I definitely recommend having some sort of structure in place, whatever that is, some type of framework that works for you and your organization. So you are not like when I started my organization, pulling your hair out. You're doing the same thing whether it's the mentorship every week that you're doing, and it just feels like you're starting over every time you're planning it. And the cool thing about it, and we had to adopt one as well. And the cool thing about that is having these structures in place, just like what you said, Shameka, everyone else knows what's going on. It's not just you, the founder, in your head. It's not just you, the executive team. It's not, you can easily pass this on and say, here's the plan, let's work the plan. Or here's the framework. If they're starting from the very, very beginning, this is the framework that we use. Go ahead and use this framework when planning. So you can even set up trainings and all of that around this. So let me go over to the chat really quick, and then we'll continue our conversation. Let's see what we got going on. Good morning, Eleanor. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. Hi, Maria. I hope all is well. All right, awesome. Okay, yes. So I love that you did. So while you're planning your fund development or your fundraisers and so forth, this is a great structure that you share. And one thing that I also want to share is, unfortunately, so as you all know, nonprofit enthusiasts, we're a one-stop shop. That's our goal. Like when you come in with your nonprofit, we're here to support you all. And if you come in and let's say we helped you plan your whole fund development, and now you're like, I want to put an event or fundraiser together and I need logistical help and all that, this is who we're calling right here. So, but yeah, so we're going to work alongside Shameka to show her like, this is what and kind of like pass the vision on. But so that's that, continuation. Versus going to a bunch of different companies and trying to pass the vision. We're working all together to help support your organization. So this is the person that we're calling when it comes to events. And the logistical piece, we got the fund development plan, we got your vision, we got all of that together. It's like, hey Shameka, can you, here it is. So that's one thing I do want to point out. If you're like, look, I want to do something, I don't know what it is, we will help you figure that piece out, and then we'll hand you over to Shameka to execute that event or that you're planning to have. So I just want to point that out. Awesome. So Shameka, anything else that you want to share while we're on?
Well, when you were just speaking just then, I was thinking about how a lot of times with events, people have their mind made up what the events are for, right? So if you're doing this planning that needs to take place. If you're doing that, sometimes you assess if you really need that or if the
Mm-hmm.
timing is right for that. I've had conversations with people, they're like, oh, this is a great idea and I want to do this twice a year. Does it make sense to do
Mm-hmm.
it twice a year? Will people support it? Will your team be
Yep.
able to execute it? And so that's definitely something that I would say around the planning piece of it. And for me, these goals and objectives that I work with typically in that framework is usually per event, per program.
Mm-hmm.
But despite that, you also have big picture
Mm-hmm.
goals and objectives, right? So you need to have those together first before we can start working on what those programmatic things are, or even those event related things are, to see where they fit into the big picture of everything. So, you if you come up with something and you say, well, let's do this, if it doesn't make sense, then I'm not going to recommend that you waste your
Mm-hmm.
resources on that, right? So we want to look at what makes sense with that overall goal that you're trying to get across, and where it fits in the big picture, because the recommendations that even I would give is going to be based on, well, what else have you done before this?
Mm-hmm.
What else have you done for the year? How many are you planning to do after this? Because that's going to change based on, what my recommendations are for this
Mm-hmm.
particular event. It's going to change based on what else you're doing, what you're trying to do big picture. Is this a one-time thing? Is this
Right.
a repeat thing? Is this annual? Is this quarterly? How are we approaching it? Because they all are different. But I will also say, because I know we're coming towards the end of the year, listen, one, get your plans together for next year. So I know we got to do some end of the year stuff,
Yes.
but before I start
Yes.
talking about that, get your plans together for next year.
Yes.
Don't wait. This is now the time to do it. This is when a lot of companies in different places, your donors and everything, are looking towards their budgets for next year. So this is a
Yep.
really great opportunity for you to kind of get your plan together, know what you plan to do, look at those budgets of what's going on, and then plan accordingly, because a lot of what you may do for the rest of the end of the year may be prepping for
Mm-hmm.
2023, right?
Yep.
And so I know you've done some talks about this. I hope people have already started, like Giving Tuesday. I
Yes.
hope they're planning for it. But there are some other things that you need to kind of wrap it up with the bow
Yep.
for
Yep.
the end of the year. So you want to go ahead and get those things together. It's not always event, but if an event is involved in it, honey, definitely get that together. You want to make sure that if there's anything that you need to tie up with the bow and you're like, you know what, maybe that's a good thing we need to put in that program or in that event as well, because we haven't finished that out for the year. That was part of our goals, but we
Mm-hmm.
haven't finished that out. This is a good opportunity to get exposure for it.
Love it. You remind me, yes, with that year-end planning, that's why we like to bring that up in October. Yes, we know we are already like halfway through the year. And guess what? No matter what, every year we're halfway through the year. A lot of organizations, we all still kind of scramble to try to get everything together by the what's our normally our deadline around this time. Oh, I need to get that done by December. I need to get that done by the end of the year, no matter what it is. I remember last year, we made a post, and I'm thinking about it. We might do something again special this year where we did I believe it was 10 free strategy sessions to help take your nonprofit to the next level by the end of the year. And we did accomplish that goal. Some people may be like, oh my gosh, how? Yeah, we got it done. We got so much response. Over 100 people responded to
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah, we had so much response, and we were able to kind of just sit down, one call, strategize, and then those 10 went out and executed, and they came back. We actually brought some people back on, and they talked about how, but I know this is the time. Year end is starting to happen. Get whatever it is, because you're probably still, no matter how much we say you got to plan out a year in advance. I'm not even gonna bother say that, or ahead of time. I know we're still gonna scramble and try to get some things accomplished by the end of the year. So definitely, with that year end
Are you
planning.
doing that this year?
I might do a little something. I might do a little something this year.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'll see. I
You
just
know,
thought about
if
it.
you do it this year, because you know what I do, if you see about 3 that can use some help from me, let me know.
Right, yes. Let me put that down. I guess we're doing it this year. Put that down. Okay, we'll set up something where we can do some, a call, and help you all get to the next level. I see you, Danita. Danita's like, yes, do it. Okay. All right, all right, all right. Okay. I guess we could do some. All right, so we'll do something this year to help you all. And the thing why we had to limit it, I'll see how we can make it work. Why we had to limit it, because they were one-on-ones. There's literally
A
driving
lot of
into
time.
your organization
Mhm.
and what your organization needs. So that's why we had to limit it. But I'll see what we could come up with. And yes, we'll be calling you, Shameka, for those 3. We got Danita said, yes, do it. Eleanor, yes, do it. Okay, all right. Since you all said, we'll do it. All right, we'll set something up. I want to go back really quick, Danita, because I did see your question. So you said, can you say more about event program logistics, please, and why this is your heartbeat? So why, and I hope I'm answering your question. So pretty much, remember, in a nonprofit organization, think about a restaurant. Just because I'm a foodie, I'm going to go there and I'm hungry. Okay, so in a restaurant, the food in the menu, that's what they sell. For us as nonprofits, our program and services, that's what we sell. So it's almost like, if you don't have program, yes, we always want the money, but if you don't have program and services, we don't have nothing to. That's like going into a restaurant with no nothing on the menu, right? So I really, really love programs and services, and building programs and services, and then encouraging other funders and so forth to invest in program services. Just because it's the heart, it's really, if you don't have it, you don't have an organization. You have to have something that so with that,
Can
I
I
do
add
have.
to that?
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
you
go ahead,
mind?
Shameka.
Do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
mind?
yeah.
So, because I love using food examples too.
Yeah. Yes.
That's my background. My dad had a business. So, and I've been in the service industry all my life.
Hmm.
So to add to that, because logistics is my jam as
Yes.
well. I would say, if you use that same example of going into a restaurant, there are restaurants that y'all go to, we all go to, that are hole in the walls, and we're just like, we know the wait is forever, the service isn't the greatest, but the food is great, right?
Hmm.
So you have some times where you're just like, the food is just worth it to that level, so I'm going to keep going back, right? But then
Yep.
you have restaurants that the food isn't that great, but the service is outstanding, and that might be
Hmm.
why somebody is going to that. If you can put those 2 together,
That's true.
where you can go in there, it's efficient, they're meeting most of the needs that you have from a dietary perspective, you got pretty decent service, it's at a good value, you're likely to keep going to that location. You're likely to recommend it to others. And so
Hmm.
that's why that part needs to be tight.
Yep. Yep. There it is.
So that's the big picture, but
Yeah.
just think of it as, when you're doing your programs, if there's a bottleneck area, if there's an area where people have hiccups, then this is where it's kind of like, ugh,
Hmm.
but they keep going if they're passionate
Yep.
about it, if they understand the mission behind it. But if you can get those wrinkles kind of ironed out,
Out.
then you're
Yep.
like, okay, well,
Yep.
we good. Let's keep going.
Yep. Yep. And if you need help getting those wrinkles out, we're here. We got you. We definitely got. Yeah, I love programs. I designed a couple programs that were for nationally affiliated organizations, award-winning programs, and I just love them. One was a entrepreneur program, and that was before all these like different pitch programs for youth were out there. That was way before then. We were one of the first ones to develop it, and then eventually it started popping up more in our area. Yeah, programs is the heartbeat. So that, remember, that's your menu, that's what you're offering. Your funders, your community is, your programs, your services, that's what you bring. Hey Chuck, good morning, thank you for joining us. All right, awesome. And one thing before we get ready to close out and make some announcements, y'all tune in, because I gotta tell y'all some stuff. So before we leave, one thing that I like, Shameka, that you include in your framework is evaluation. It's so often that events, let's say, or even bringing someone in to help support plan events and programs, that gets left off. Were we success? It's kind of like we did the event, we went down our checklist. All right, next. But I love the fact that you really do, and we've done this together where you're like, okay, no, it's not just next. It's we're gonna sit down and look, did we meet our goals? At the beginning, you're kind of like, what is our goal? Why, for this? How many people are we planning to bring in, and all of that? And at the end, you're kind of like, did we meet our goals? I love that. So that is very important to have that evaluation component in your event planning or program planning.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and I think, and it's more than just that, just so that everyone knows, it's more than
Yes.
just did we meet our goals, but that's very important. So you want to
Yep.
know if you met your goals, but you want to know so much more than that. You want to look at, if you had social media, what those analytics look like. Do you need to change your strategy for next year?
Right.
You want to look at, what did we observe? What did our surveys say? Did we see that there was a bottleneck? Did we hear people make certain comments? So you want to get all of that information down. And if it's something that was unique to this time, you want to also kind of state what that looks like. Well, this time we had to do it outside, or it was COVID. So it changed our turnout, because we might forget in 10 years that was COVID. I don't think we will, but we might.
Right.
You don't know who's looking at it. So you want to make sure that they have that documentation as to why what happened. And if you're doing this every single time, not just the first time, every single time, so that you have a chance to look at it and say, okay, I see where we're headed. I see what changes we need to make, or this is great. Like, I got a new plan.
Love it. Yes, yes, yes. So, anything else before I segue into our announcements that we got? One of them involves seeing you next week. So, anything else before I start going into that area that you want to share?
What? I saw one more question come up. I don't know if you want to check
did I miss
one
it?
out. It just came up.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, I missed that. Sorry, Danita. Okay, we have, in your eval, how do you measure impact that can't be quantified?
Okay, so that's for me. So in the eval, if you're using my framework, because I do have a framework, I'm happy to share it with anybody that wants to reach out to me or reach out to Lashina. But there are elements under the framework, so you know exactly what you're looking for, right? So there are elements that aren't measurable, but just like I mentioned, with getting that feedback, kind of making observations, these are things you still want to notate and have on record. But as far as your metrics, you are supposed to design metrics outside of your goals and objectives so that you can measure what it looked like. And you have to decide what that measurement is, So if that measurement is this percentage of people actually made a donation to the organization, or if it's, because it depends on what your goals are. It may be an awareness campaign. It could be all sorts of things. So you want to kind of look at it from that perspective if you're talking about metrics. But in the evaluation phase, we look at so much more than just metrics. We're looking at media. We're looking at all sorts of things that you may have collected or observed during a time. So you want to gather all of that information at the end to make a big picture. You don't want to look at just the metrics or just your surveys. Is so much more holistic than that.
Yep. And there's always, like, if you can't quantify, remember, there's always testimonials and those type of collection methods that you can use. It might not necessarily be a number, but it's videos that you can share, pictures, and those type of things that you can share as well.
And it's just deciding, what does success look like to you? That's really what it boils down to. So you have to describe what that looks like, whatever that is, and that's how you quantify it.
Awesome. All right. So let me see. Denise says, I want to ensure the work I am doing is impacting lives. Of course, that's, definitely having some sort of evaluation plan in what you do is absolutely important. Developing, your outputs versus your outcomes, which we might need to do another, we did have a month. I will say this. If you go into the guide section, we did have a month that we went over evaluations. Definitely check that area out where we talked about some tools that you can use and so forth. So that way you don't have to wait until we do our next month with that as the theme. Definitely check that area out. Chuck says, great discussion. Thanks for sharing. Yes, please share your framework for impact. Okay, and Denise said, great, thank you. I look forward to meeting both of you later. Oh, Denise, we're gonna see you next week. All right, so let's go ahead and make our announcements. So I like to say that we're going on tour because let me tell you all this. So we are fortunate to have the opportunity to be able to go to several counties throughout the state of Florida and deliver community capacity building training. So if you are a nonprofit tuning in and you're kind of like, hey, I've been wanting to somehow come to one of your trainings and so forth, we are going on tour. You can find all of these and feel free to send me a message. And these are also on our event page on our website, nonprofitenthusiast.com. So let's talk about the tour. So Monday, we are going to be in Pasco County. So if you are in the Pasco area, you can go onto our website or DM me and I'll send you the link. So that way, actually I can put the event page up. Let me go ahead and drop the event page link in the chat box. If you're in Pasco, we're going to be in Pasco. Please come by, check us out, join us for the event. The event is absolutely free. Thanks to the Florida Economic Consortium. They are funding all of these different events. So definitely come out and join us. On October on that. Okay, so Monday we're in Pasco. Tuesday we're going all the way up the map and we're going to be in Jacksonville. So go ahead, October 11th we'll be in Jacksonville. And then Thursday, well, I know the conference starts actually Friday through Sunday, we'll be seeing Danita, we'll be seeing Shameka at the Blacks in Nonprofit Conference in Atlanta. If you're in the Atlanta area, go ahead, send me a message. You know, I'd love to somehow schedule some time so that we can get together while we'll be there, because we'll be there for a few days. So definitely let me know that you're in, or drop a message in the chat so I know and I'll reach out to you. Okay, so that's where we're going to be. And then when we come back, October 21st, we're going to be in Pinellas County, St. Pete area. If you're in that area, October 21st, please register, come join us there. And then October 27th, we will be in Sanford. October 22nd, I'm sorry. We're going to be in the Sanford area. If you're up that way, come on and check us out. We also are scheduling the Orange County session that will be taking place in Orange. So we'll be announcing that as well. We'll be updating our events page as we continue to confirm those trainings. So this is all in Florida. So we'll be in Orange County, in Sanford area. If you're in St. Pete's, we'll be in St. Pete's. I see Danita said Duval. Danita, please come check us out. We want to see you on Tuesday. You'll see myself, you'll see Joe, and we'll be conducting this the community building training. And it's a great way for you to meet your community there and build networks and continue to build partnerships in your area. And again, we'll be in Dade City on Monday, and then next week, Thursday through Sunday, we're going to be in Atlanta. All right, Atlanta, Georgia. So we are so excited to be able to go on this tour. So with that, I'm going to tell you all this. We do have someone scheduled next week for Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. We may be moving that. Y'all might see a lot of pop-up lives where, let's say if we're at the conference and we're speaking to someone, we want to go live just to bring you all the information. A lot of that may be happening next week. So definitely, tune in, check out the page. If you're in the area, don't forget, let me know. So that way we can schedule somehow to get to meet you. So yeah, so we're excited. I look forward to seeing our Atlanta folks that's coming. Okay, all right, Danita registered. Yay, can't wait to see you. Finally. Yeah, so we had some amazing things. Another thing is, don't forget to go and invite your friends to the group, because that's the best way that we grow together, is by inviting more people. So how you do that, you take a moment, just pause for 1 second. We're just going to you go up to the corner, click invite, and then invite, let's say, at least 5 people. Just click invite and drop at least 5 people, because the more people we have in the group, the more information we're able to share with each other, and the more resources we are able to bring to you all, especially as we speak to our sponsors. We like, look, this is what we're hearing and this is what we need. So it helps us do that. So please, invite friends to the group. Last week we talked about kicking off our podcast, and I know this part I'm going to announce again. Don't worry, in case you forget. If you're on Apple and Spotify, don't forget to follow us. and we just launched our YouTube page. So yes, we need some follows on YouTube. So follow us on YouTube, please. You all be the first to follow us. It's Nonprofit Enthusiasts on YouTube. Same thing if you're on Spotify and Apple, just type in Nonprofit Enthusiasts, will pop up. Go ahead and follow us. We'll be loading these lives there. But the cool thing about you all, you're the group that gets it first. Like for the most part, everything, y'all get it first. If we have something like we're coming like this, us doing this tour, we haven't even announced this on any other pages or anything yet. You all get it first. And that's the benefits of being in this group. You are the first to hear a lot of the things that's going on, a lot of the resources that become available. You're going to get it first in this group. So yes. All right. Let me see. Hey, Dolly. Morning, Dolly. All right. Danita say, y'all rock out. Congrats. Thank you, Danita. I can't wait. So I'm going to get to see you in Jacksonville next week and Atlanta. I'm so excited. Can't wait. Danita, we might need to go live. Not to put you on the spot, but maybe, hey, look, when we're in Atlanta next week, let's try to schedule something. And we could talk about your organization. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you all. Anything else, Shameka, before I close out today?
Honey, you just said a whole lot and had a whole lot of announcement. I am not going to follow that up. I'm just going to say thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to see you next week, and Danita as well. See her next week. So. And I'm sure from the 3 that you'll probably send over, because I feel like it's going to be 3. You'll send over. I look forward to working with them as well.
Yes, we'll make an announcement for you all so that way we know who the 3 is. If you're interested, let us know. Danita said, let me get
me
these
too. That's what I'm headed after
that's so funny. Okay, let's get ready for next week. Awesome. Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. All right, cool. All right, you all. So we will see y'all next week. Just be ready. Stay tuned in the group because you don't know where we're going to be or what we're going to be announcing. So just be ready, especially because after this conversation, we said we're going to have our next level sessions coming back. Shameka said she'll do 3 event coaching sessions, which is going to be absolutely amazing. So stay tuned. We're going to be announcing some of that soon. All right, y'all. All right. Talk to you later, everybody. Bye.